Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. We have had some exciting goings on here in the last 12 or 24 hours. We had Donald Trump address crypto and Bitcoin, and I'll get to that in a second. But the most important thing that has happened is I put 3 butts on the smoker this morning, and I bought the XRP dip. And so I started my morning off right. Okay. I want to start with this. This is from Crypto Deluxe at Mycore Eczema. And he sent me this. This was, I believe what he sent me was the tweet. Yes, the tweet from Brad Garlinghouse, which was yesterday. Applauding UK regulator, the FCA, for providing clarity and leadership on the classifications of digital assets. They recognize Ethereum has the features of a hybrid exchange / utility token, not a security token, and call out the similarities between Ethereum and XRP. That is a big deal, folks, because even if XRP was only approved in one country and declared not a security, that'll start the dominoes falling, because different countries are not going to, I mean, specifically the United States is not going to let XRP be a thing in Europe when they could let XRP be a thing for the world and the U.S. leads the way. They're not going to let it be a thing for Europe or for Japan or whatever and not be in on the game. Not with the first mover advantage that Ripple has. No way, no how. So that is important. Okay, next. Let's see what we have next. This is from XRP Dave at the Davey92. I think he was the first person that sent me Donald Trump's tweet. And Donald Trump says, I am not a fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies which are not money and whose value is highly volatile and based on thin air. Unregulated crypto assets can facilitate unlawful behavior, including the drug trade and other illegal activity. Similarly, Facebook's Libra virtual currency will have little standing or dependability. If Facebook and other companies want to become a bank, they must see a new banking charter and become subject to all banking regulations, just like other banks, both national and international. We have only one real currency in the United States, and it's stronger than ever. Both dependable and reliable. It is by far the most dominant currency in the world, anywhere in the world, and it will always stay that way. It is called the United States dollar. Now, before I leave this, I want to make a couple of points. The first point I want to make is that this morning I have been seeing just this tweet by Donald Trump, and I find it interesting that he thought it was important enough not just to give some half-baked tweet, but to tweet out literally 2 or 3 paragraphs about this, folks. That is significant. All right. The next thing I want to say is that as a result of just this tweet, this morning, the talk about Bitcoin and crypto and Libra is all over CNBC. I'm going to show you in a minute. Anthony Pompliano was on CNBC. Mark Cuban was on CNBC bashing Libra. Then you had who's the guy that does the show in the afternoon that I'm always talking about. I'll think of his name in a minute. Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer was on talking about, he was basically saying, we don't need all this, we just need PayPal and all. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. But anyway, the point is that this genie's out of the bottle, and now they're having to recognize it for what it is, and that is changing. But the reason all of these people are squirming like they are, I'm going to go over that at the end of this video and give you what I think is the best analogy that there is. Okay, but to address a couple of things in here, he basically, I think the gist of this tweet, in my opinion, is that he's coming out against what Facebook is doing. That's what I believe ultimately this is really about, is that he's weighing in as being against it. Now, I do have to take Donald Trump to task on this US dollar comment. The US dollar has been a joke for years and is a joke, and he doesn't want to admit that it's a joke, but I will give you something that you can go and watch. Actually, I'll show it to you now. If you want to see what a joke the US dollar is, go and watch this. I've shown this on this channel before. It's quantitative easing explained, okay? This is one of the funniest things that you will see. You can go to Malekonoms at MALEKANOMS, and they've got this. It's what the Federal Reserve is up to and how we got here. And it's a hilarious exchange about how ridiculous quantitative easing was and all these stupid Federal Reserve, these terms they come up with and all these joke things that they've done to destroy our money, which is the US dollar. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is wrong on that. Okay. Now I want to go back to let's go back to the tweet, and we'll go in order to some different things having to do with this. Now, notice Donald Trump did not say anything bad about XRP. He didn't even bring it up. So XRP boy replied, I think, to Donald Trump's tweet with this. Remember, I showed you this a couple of weeks ago. This is the Breaker magazine interview with Corey Johnson, who was the spokesman for Ripple last year. Do you have a sense of what the Trump administration thinks about a product like Ripple? If you go down to here, he says, and he acknowledges that Ripple has met with the White House. He says the White House in particular seems to be thinking about what it means to have 80% of the Bitcoin mining taking place in China and a majority of Ether mining taking place in China. When you look at XRP, there is no mining. So from a foreign control aspect or from an environmental aspect, XRP is a very different beast. And in conversations we've had with the administration, they seem to get that and think that might matter. So don't think for a second that Donald Trump's tweet is anti-Ripple or anti-XRP. All right, moving along. And next, this is from XRP James. You know, I was talking to him this morning. I believe it was him this morning. He saw that I was smoking some meat, and apparently he used to be a competition guy in, I think he said Texas, smoking. He sent me some pictures of some, I believe it was summer sausage he had made. Pretty cool. But he sent me this. Justin Sun always takes advantage of a good marketing opportunity, and so I thought this was funny. Justin Sun, after the Trump tweet, Justin Sun invites Donald Trump to join the crypto lunch that he's paid for with Warren Buffett. So I thought that was funny enough to mention. All right, who else is weighing in on this? The Rhythm Trader, one of my favorite tweeters. The Federal Reserve compares Bitcoin to gold. Trump criticizes Bitcoin comparing against the dollar. Deutsche Bank downsizes 18,000 employees. U.S. budget deficit jumps 23.1%. Hash rate reaches new all-time high. Bitcoin has never had a more bullish week. I agree. Okay. Michael at VAL5 Link sent me this. This is a tweet from Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, responding to this. Achievement unlocked. I dreamt about a sitting U.S. president needing to respond to growing cryptocurrency usage years ago. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. We just made it to step 3, y'all. So in other words, they're trying to fight you, okay? Now they're trying to fight you. And I'm going to finish this video and really put this in perspective for you. Now, from at Trooper XRP sent me this. This is from Jack the Rippler. Ripple works with regulators all over the world, and Donald Trump doesn't like unregulated cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and the others. I love this. The eyes are useless when the mind is blind. Read between the lines. XRP the standard. All right. And finally, I just saw this before I put this video together. This made me laugh. Anthony Pompliano is dead on in this. The first thing he says is, he's on Squawk Box, he says, if you said 10.5 years ago, the President of the United States is going to be tweeting about magic internet money, we would have never envisioned that day. And then he goes on and he says, Bitcoin is too big to fail at this point. I love that because that is He's taking a stab at these government people that have ruined our money and the central banks right there. And he's correct. And finally, I'm going to finish this video with this, folks. I've told you this story before. Now, I want to tell you, my yard men have just shown up. So you could be dealing with a blower and a lawnmower and/or a lawnmower as we finish this video. But I will talk loudly because this is the most important thing I'm going to say today. I've talked about this before. One of my favorite baseball movies is Moneyball. If you haven't seen it, go watch it today. I may watch it just because I brought it up today. A friend of mine reminded me yesterday. His name's Michael. I'll give him a shout out here. Michael, you know that you told me about this yesterday, so it reminded me this can't be brought up enough times. This is the scene in Moneyball where Billy Beane, this guy, Brad Pitt plays his name, plays Billy Beane. Billy Beane was the general manager of the Oakland A's back in around, I think it was around 2000. Don't quote me on these dates. But anyway, this movie, what it's about is the Oakland A's, they lost a bunch of their good players because they couldn't afford them anymore, and the Yankees, who have tons of money, bought some of their players or whatever. So they lost their players. Well, Billy Beane had one of the lower budgets in all of the Major League Baseball. And so what this movie is about, and it was based on a book, it was about how he hired a guy went to Yale, and he majored in economics, okay? And so he hires this guy, and the guy comes in, there goes our blower. Okay, but that's part of this channel. Those of you that are listening know that we have blowers in the background sometimes. But anyway, so no, actually that is an edger. They're doing edging right now, so we might have an edger, a lawnmower, and a blower. We'll be setting records on this channel on this Friday. Okay, but anyway, in Moneyball, what this is about is he gets this really smart guy from Yale, and the guy has put together all kinds of models, and the models are basically what the premise of the movie is that all of these rich teams like the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, they think that you're supposed to go out and buy players, spend tons of money on buying players. But if the point is that if you really studied the numbers and studied the players, you can get players for a lot cheaper if you focus in on the statistics that show which guys get on base the most, because ultimately getting on base gets runs. And so they put a model together where they could go and pick up players on the cheap and get them for much less money, but it's guys who are under the radar, who get on base all the time, but they're not necessarily the guys that are on the billboards that are getting paid the millions of dollars. So they put this team together, and they end up winning more games in a row than any team in the history of the major leagues has won. He fell a little bit short and did not win the pennant, I believe. But this scene here, and the reason I'm telling you all this, I'm making a point here. This scene that you're looking at right here is one of my favorite scenes of all time, and it will illustrate to you exactly what we're going through with digital assets and crypto, and what we've been going through for the last few years. What this is, at the very end, the Boston Red Sox recognized how revolutionary what Billy Beane had done as the A's general manager. So they called him to give him a job offer. And in that offer, I guess it's the owner of the Boston Red Sox, I think his name was John. I believe it was the owner. But anyway, I'm about to read to you what he says in this scene. And because this so applies to what we're going through with digital assets. And I'm going to read this right now. I actually took the time to go watch the video and typed it out so that I could read it to you. It's that important. Here it goes. This is John talking to Billy Beane. He says, I know you're taking it on the teeth out there, but the first guy through the wall, he always gets bloody. Always. This is threatening not just a way of doing business, but in their minds, it's threatening the game. It's threatening the game, but really what it's threatening is their livelihood. It's threatening their jobs. It's threatening the way that they do things. And every time that happens, whether it's a government or a way of doing business or whatever it is, the people who are holding the reins and have their hands on the switch, they go batshit crazy. I am the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family not to forget this. And every time that happens, whether it's a government or a way of doing business or whatever it is, the people who are holding the reins and have their hands on the switch, they go batshit crazy. And that is what you are seeing Congress do right now. That's what you're seeing the president do. These people can't put this genie back in the bottle. The reason they can't is because it symbolizes freedom. All of these decentralized digital assets, it is freedom, and the people know it. And it has terrified them since 2010 when all this came out. But it is what it is. And they will not be able to stop it. They can try all they want, and they'll make it a bumpy ride for us, but that's okay. Thank you for listening.